Okay, so this is John Fahey's Spanish two-step. Open G tuning again. Alternating bass. 16 measure verses. I think it's pretty straightforward. We're going to start off over the G chord. Kind of doing these slides up to the 9th fret. And then back to the 5th fret. So it's a quick slide, 7 to 9, down to 5, open, and then we bar over 5 strings for the C chord. Still alternating between the 5th and 4th string. Back to G. For our D chord, I'm going to bar 4 strings and alternate my bass now between the 6th and the 4th string. Back to G. Back to this one more time, sliding back to D, 5th fret. Right there at the end, you have one of those very common Fahey rolls. That's a technique I've talked about on many of these videos. Kind of rolling the hand out as I go. This is basically the last measure in that first verse, on the 16th measure, if you're looking at the tab. Okay, so that's the first verse. In the second verse, he comes up and plays a little figure between the basically the 11th and 14th fret. So if you have a 12 fret guitar, this might be a little tricky. I have 14 frets on my guitar, obviously. And how you finger this too, I think, is important. I'm using my middle finger on the 12th fret, my pinky on the 14th fret, and my first finger on the 11th fret as the 2nd string. Hit up. A very common kind of blues trope there, that oblique bend, bending that note, playing the note underneath it while the bent note's ringing. I imagine that'll give some of you a little bit of trouble. So when I do these kind of bends, and I know in the beginning when people do these bends, there's the sympathetic movement of the finger below it wanting to bend too. So what I do is I kind of make a sort of a mental note to, like, instead of bending that, I push into the fretboard a little bit. Since that finger wants to move too, if you can get it to push in, you won't have the tendency to push the string up. So you want to avoid that. So it's really basically over the G chord sections from verse to verse that the theme changes. We had in the first verse, that was our G chord motif, and then this one, that's the motif. The others, the C and the D chords, stay the same. I was a little thing in the tab here that I don't think I did in the performance over this D chord. This is measure 23 through 24. There's a little hiccup in the bass there, kind of thing you hear in like a Blind Blake tune. It's 1, 2, 3, excuse me, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then you hit a low bass note on the and of 4. kind of falls into the next note on the first beat, where you don't play a bass note, you just let that low D note hang. I'm going to play measure 23 and 24 together. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's kind of one of those little syncopated bass things that happens every once in a while. Now moving on. Comes back to the initial lick that he played over the G chord. Okay, and that's the end of verse 2. On the third verse, he has this little kind of leaves the bass out, and he does this little high string run. So going from the 12th fret, and you can just bar this, 8th and 9th fret. So that's the new motif over the G chord. C chord the same. Notice I'm actually bringing my thumb down. I'm using my thumb and first finger to play these two high strings. Do that same thing with the D chord there, that little hiccup in the bass. And finish off back into our original lick. Fahey would end with harmonics played over at the 12th fret in an open tuning.